I think that's the key to a long, successful career in real estate. Like, you won't be a great salesperson in 12 months. You might get very lucky in a good market in 12 months, but you won't become a great salesperson in 12 months. And the best attribute for a salesperson is to listen. If you don't get the price right, you struggle to sell it. If you ask a lot of good quality questions, you'll get the answers that you need. I wouldn't have inflated expectations coming into real estate. You've got to have pretty thick skin being a real estate agent.
Welcome to the Hot Property Podcast. My name is Greg Riehl, and I'm here with my friend, business partner, and the founder of Hot Property, Leon Carlile. So, Leon, you've been in the industry for 28 years, 22 of which has been holding the directorship of Hot Property. Over this time, you've trained and developed some of Toowoomba's most successful real estate agents, with yourself being one of them. What does it take for an agent to enter the industry, receive mentorship, and become a dominant sales agent in the Toowoomba region? What are the fundamentals that people need to instill in themselves to actually have a sustainable career?
Well, Greg, I think people need to come into a real estate industry like any other industry. You know, you might have to do TAFE, you might have to do university degrees, and it's good to see that the REIQ are now starting to put through, you know, some better training, better quality training to get people into our industry and to elevate our industry to where it needs to be, because we deal with some extremely expensive properties now and a lot of emotions with both buyers and sellers. So when you're dealing with all those emotions and the high-priced properties, and when I say high-priced properties, that could be, you know, your first block of land for $250,000, or it could be a multi-million-dollar house, you know, on the Toowoomba Range or somewhere like that. So high-priced properties to me mean a lot of different things. And the attributes of the salesperson themselves, they got to come in with a great attitude to start with. I think having no experience whatsoever is fantastic because you haven't got any bad habits when you come into the industry. So I think if they look at it from a long-term point of view, like an investor would when they're buying a property, the longer the term that you look at the real estate industry for yourself as a career and a salesperson, or a career in the industry, whether you start off as reception and then go through to sales, or property management or whatever that might be, I think that's the key to a long, successful career in real estate. I do see a lot of people come in with such short-term views. They see the good agents driving around in their BMWs or Audis or you know, really nice cars and think, I can do that in 12 months or 2 years. It's got to be an apprenticeship, you know. And I wish the REIQ maybe would bring in an apprenticeship in real estate, because that would take you through the training. It would set some time factors on that. Like, you won't be a great salesperson in 12 months. You might get very lucky in a good market in 12 months, but you won't become a great salesperson in 12 months, you know? And the best attribute for a salesperson is to listen. Yeah. Most people that come into the industry say, look, I'm a great talker, and everyone says I can sell ice to the Eskimos. You go, well, I'm going to have to train that out of you because I need you to be a great listener.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like you said, people can come into the industry and get lucky because of the market. And that's what we've seen over the past 3 years in the market that the Darling Downs has had, where people have come into the industry, they've been able to sell properties regardless of competencies that would have made them successful in the past. And they've learnt to love the outcome of selling property rather than the process that leads to a listing, to the negotiation, and then to the product of the property selling. And we're now starting to see the fallout of these agents that had a bit of a gravy boat ride into their careers, now going, oh my gosh, there is a lot to become a successful real estate when people aren't barging through the door to buy a property.
Yeah. Look, it's such a lot of hard work. And for good agents and great agents, it's a lot of hard work over a long period of time. You know, it's about building up relationships with people, getting connections, you know, you supporting my business and me supporting your business, all that sort of stuff. Then once people know that you've been in the industry a little while, then you start to get referrals coming through. You know, people, mum and dad might recommend their son. Like, you know, we've done some wonderful businesses with families where we've sold the grandparents' properties, then we've sold the parents the properties and sold them for them, and then we've sold the kids and now the grandkids. So it's a great succession when you start to see that longevity in the industry, where those grandparents had the the faith in you, or we had the listings at the time. We dealt with the grandparents. They enjoyed the experience, and then they sent their kids back, and then those parents of the kids sent their kids, and then their kids, their grandkids, ultimately have dealt with it. So that's been a really interesting journey all the way through the real estate career. And you see great agents doing that. They look after families through generations. Yep.
Definitely. So 28 years ago, when you first entered the industry, you were leaving another industry. You were leaving your successful building career to go into real estate. So you already had some form of database of clients and circle of influence, but it looks much different to an agent entering into the industry in 2024. There was no Facebook, not even a MySpace account for you to have a scroll through. How did you go?
We had a Refidex, Greg. It was a little round thing that you put business cards in.
Oh, you've completely lost me.
And you'd flick through it. And you'd flick through, or you had a box on your desk with names and numbers written on them from people that you either met or had contact with, or you had their business card in a little box.
Yeah.
And every day you just flick through that box and go, okay, I'm going to ring these 20 or 30 people.
And is that what your first year looked like? Just working through your Refidex and making 20 calls a day to people that you had a warm touch point with?
Look, to be honest, when I came into real estate, I wanted to be just like Kim Taylor. Kim sold me my first house when I was in my early 20s, well, when I was 20, before I got married. And I just wanted to be just like Kim, and Kim is a great name, still is a great name in Toowoomba real estate. And, over the years, I learned a lot off Kim. And then I learned a lot of the other agents, the great agents like Ian Knight and all those sort of people. You just listen to them. And I think, once again, as a great agent, you've got to listen to those who have done it better than you for a long period of time. Dennis Duffy was another one of those agents that you listen to, Barry Tees, Derek Nissen, Jim Mackay. There was such a lot of top-performing people in the company where we originally started that I got to listen to for many years. So I didn't have high expectations for myself. So I went for probably 4 or 5 months and I hadn't made even a sale. I hadn't got a listing. It came to Christmas time and all the guys went on holidays. They'd had a pretty good year that year. And they said, hey, Leon, do you just want to work in the office over Christmas? You'll be here by yourself. Is that okay? I said, happy days. I'm more than happy to work over Christmas. I didn't have anything else to do. Didn't have kids at that stage. And so I did 7 sales that week and a half over Christmas. And I thought, wow, isn't this real estate thing easy?
Yeah. And how did you keep that momentum? So going from 0 sales to managing 7 sales.
Yeah.
How did you taper back the adrenaline rush and then get down to some form of routine or leverage those 7 sales to use that as a platform for next year in real estate?
We were doing the door knocking. We were doing the letterbox drops. I was going out handing other agents letterbox drops into letterboxes, and you just go and meet people. A lot back in those days. I know it seems like I'm old now, but 28 years ago, we used to go to the pub, have lunch, and do business at the pub. And a lot of the agents used to, go to Fitzy's or the James Cook Tavern, if you can remember that, to a lot of the different pubs. And they used to do business at the pub. So that's predominantly where a lot of business used to get done, especially from a commercial point of view back in the day. And you used to just have lunch, have a few beers when that was quite a normal thing to do. And we used to do business, meet new people. Somebody on the next table might say, oh, you're in real estate, I'm looking for a block of land. I go, no worries, I've got all week to spend with you looking for a block of land. So back in those days, you put the buyer in the car, you'd say, listen, would you mind coming around to the office tomorrow? We'll jump in the car at 8 o'clock and away we go. And we'd spend all day just driving around looking at blocks of land. And you come back at 5 o'clock that afternoon and say, okay, which one did you like? And they said, oh, I like that one. You'd ring up the other agent. You'd do a 50-50 conjunction. So the other agent was more than happy to let you sell their block.
Yep.
You do the 50-50 conjunction and do the contract up. And I wouldn't say it's as easy as that, but it was, if you put the time and effort into people, they were very loyal to you back then. I think now with the internet and all that sort of stuff, I don't think that loyalty factor is there with a lot of the buyers these days. Certainly for our good clients who have come back to us for years and generations, that's there with us. But it's only such a small percentage of people now because, we do sell a lot of property sight unseen. We might do a walkthrough video now to a Sydney or Melbourne buyer or from Darwin or anywhere in the world actually. They'll buy that property over the internet. They'll sign the contract over the internet, and we might not even meet that person face to face. I've sold some commercial property to people who they've never even been into the commercial property that they purchased, but they just tickle pink because they get that rolling check every month for the last 5 or 10 or 15 years from that commercial property. They go, Leon, why would I even need to come and look at the commercial property? You're just doing a great job looking after it. So, I went, okay, it'd just be nice if you wanted to jump in a plane, come up to Toowoomba and just have a bit of a look. But
I don't even buy clothes off online shopping, let alone a commercial property. That is just incredible, isn't it?
Well, sizing's an issue, isn't it?
Oh, I swear the property looked bigger on the internet. Yeah. So we talked about the difference of what a relationship was 28 years ago, how you build your database 28 years ago. One thing that we're very proud of at Hot Property is the amount and the quality of the training that we provide the team.
Yep.
We spend a significant amount of time, yourself, Jacob, and I, as directors, learning, scouting out the best training that we can for ourselves and the team, and looking for opportunities to go to events where we can take people to get this training all through the internet. YouTube, TEDx's, conferences that are all delivered through the internet. How was that developed and rolled out in the businesses when you were going through your ranks of your real estate trade?
So, look, many years ago when I was with PRD, PRD used to do a lot of training, in-house training in Brisbane and the Gold Coast. We used to go away with some of the top performing agents to places like Hamilton Island for a weekend, and there was no real estate stuff being done, but you just got to rub shoulders with some great agents, and you might sit down and have a drink with someone or have dinner with somebody and go, how did you do as well as you did? And I remember there was a guy at PRD at Burleigh Heads called Mark Smith, and Mark used to say, Leon, I will give that seller all the time in the world to make a decision with me when I go out to have a look at their property, but I will not leave their property until I've either got it listed or they're definitely not going to sell it with me. So he would go out at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and he said it's not uncommon for me to stay there till 9 or 10 o'clock at night until I got that listing. Wow. And I said, Mark, what did you ever talk about? And he said, whatever they wanted to talk about. He said, I just wanted to listen to them. Once again, this is, 28 years ago. Mark was there. He was listening to his clients, their needs. He understood what they wanted. He understood. The only thing he used to say was he used to battle with price a little bit back in the day because, and it's no different today. If you don't get the price right, you struggle to sell it. Mark was a top achieving salesperson because he spent the time listening to the client, but he also got the price right at the start. Yeah. And that's a really key takeaway for me with that. And then I got to listen to some of the boys from PRD Paddington. They were the guns. So between PRD Toowoomba and PRD Paddington, there was always that rivalry. We were in the top 5 agents in Australia always. So you got to rub shoulders with, some of the best agents in Australia. And when you do that, a little bit rubs off. Somebody might say, oh, this is what's working for me at the moment. And sometimes it does a big circle, Sometimes a letterbox drop at the right time when that seller's ready to sell, you might have been dropping that letterbox for 20 years. But this time when you've dropped it, that person's ready to make the decision. Yep.
Definitely. So, new agent, we're looking at database.
Yep.
Yeah, 20-a-day warm outreach for contacts you already know. We're talking training, making sure that you're actively looking out for training opportunities. The company you keep, whether that's in the office or through corporate reach out events where you can rub shoulders with good mentors. The thing that I'm interested in is a dialect of a successful sales agent. I know that when I'm with you talking to clients, that you're very considered with your language and how you talk, because there's so much value or discounting that can be done through a sales agent's speech, dialect, and how they compose themselves in these meetings. Is that natural to you, or is that something that you've developed over the 28 years?
No, I was very shy coming into real estate. So, I really didn't enjoy talking to people,
Yeah.
but I used to love listening to people. They used to say I had an old head on young shoulders because I'd always listen to all the old guys around me. The dialogue I just picked up by listening in the office. There used to be 10 or 12 of us at any one time in an open air office sitting across from each other, and it was very loud. So, you had to get used to the environment. You had to get used to listening to people. It's really hard to put. There's not one nail fits each hole. It's really quite an interesting journey. I used to say when I was recruiting for salespeople, hairdressers make the best salespeople, and that's nearly always been true for me. When I see a hairdresser come in, they like to listen to their client while they're cutting their hair. They'll put their 2 bobs worth in, and they know everybody, and they know what everybody else is doing. And a real estate agent's job really is knowing what everybody in their patch or in their town or in their suburb, what they're doing from any point in time. So, whether your sister's looking to move or to build or to, what your mum and dad are looking to do, where are they coming from? Are they coming from out of town, into town? Is somebody changing schools? Is somebody coming into Toowoomba and wants to go to a particular school? You've got to know all those sorts of things about people before you start putting properties towards them. Because it's really interesting that you've got to listen to everything that they need. And let's say, for instance, they want to send their children to grammar. You don't really have to be in a catchment area for grammar, right? And they might say, I want east of Mackenzie Street. And you've worked with them for weeks and weeks and weeks, sometimes months and months and months. And years ago, you used to work with them for up to 12 months before they bought a property, right? Wow. And so you just touch base every couple of weeks or every month or whatever that might be. And they go, oh, Leon, thank you so much for spending the last 12 months looking for a property with us. We really appreciate everything you've done. But we bought one at Wilsonton. And you go, oh, wow, I really would never have picked that. And it's because the husband got a fly-in, fly-out job and wanted to be close to the airport. Had nothing to do with the school or east side or any of that sort of stuff. So, I probably just didn't ask the question, would you like to live out near the airport? Because it just didn't dawn on me to ask that question. So if you ask a lot of good quality questions, you'll get the answers that you need. Yeah.
So that's sales IQ, and you only get that by rubbing shoulders with people and getting that mentorship and seeking out that good training where you build up the reps and you build up the language and the knowledge to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah. Look, in recent times, well, 25 years ago, I think it is, we were one of the first groups to go down to ARIC, which was the Australian Real Estate Conference in Sydney. Now, that was a pretty big thing for us to take some of our salespeople down to ARIC to listen to John McGrath and a few of the other speakers at the time. It was very expensive. I remember it felt like it was $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000, for the weekend to go down to do it. And that was a big investment, especially if you had, half a dozen salespeople, which we did at the time. Come with us. We had up to 20 salespeople at that time, but only half a dozen come down with us. And, we got such a lot out of that. And then those salespeople get taught that. They come back and they teach the other salespeople, all those new techniques or some of the new phrases to use, some of the new terminology. Because you've got to remember, it wasn't that long ago we were taking photos with our camera with the film, running it up to Cyril's Camera Centre in Ruthven Street or Village Fair, then getting it back in an hour, then running it up to the Chronicle by Wednesday lunchtime so they could print that photo in this weekend's Chronicle. And then we go out, bang the signs in, do the letterbox drops. We used to do everything back in those days. It's really interesting now. We don't even take our own photos. We have professional photographers that go out and do the photos and the drone shots. For commercial properties, we used to do aerial shots, but we used to hang out the side of an aeroplane from the Toowoomba airport and take with a camera and take a photo of the particular commercial property. And so we used to do the aerial shots, but it was hanging out the side of an aeroplane.
That's incredible.
Yeah. But that's, it's just what we used to do back in the day, I guess.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, you've left the listeners with plenty of nuggets of gold there. I'll ask you one last question before we wrap up.
Sure.
If you were someone listening to this podcast and you've been on the fence or considering real estate for some time and looking at starting their sales journey, what would be the number one thing they should start to invest into themselves before going onto that trajectory?
I would say I want to go back to attitude. I want to say spend a lot of time on having the right attitude. Don't come into real estate and think it's a quick buck or it's an easy career. It's a really hard career. We have 80% turnover. So out of 100 people that come into real estate, 80% of them leave in the first couple of years. That's very disappointing. It's very hard as a business owner to train people when you know that 80% of those people that you're going to train are going to leave you in the very short time. So I would invest into some good Tom Panos training.
Yep.
I would listen. I would join the real estate gym with Tom. I would listen to Michael Sheargold, who's been a very good trainer, trained John McGrath 20-odd years ago. I would listen to the likes of Lee Woodward, some of the old guys. Look, what I'd do, Greg, would be start with some Tom Panos training, the real estate gym. Tom has trained and is listening to some of Australia and the world's best real estate agents. So if you can't get something out of Tom, you probably shouldn't come into real estate. And then I'd just listen to some good achievers. I wouldn't have inflated expectations coming into real estate, like you're not going to make 100 or 200 grand in your first year in real estate. And look at it as an apprenticeship. Come in, do your 4 years, and after your 4 years, then I'm going to be a great agent. I think the industry itself is its own worst enemy. We're all seen to be driving around in really nice cars, living in nice homes, and wearing the suits or the nice clothes, and always seen to be going out and mingling, because that's what we do. That's part of our job. Everyone sees the glamorous side of real estate. They don't see you in here at 6 o'clock in the morning going through all your cards, your Refidex, your database, doing these sorts of podcasts, doing a lot of the online stuff that we do these days. They don't see you out at 8 or 9 o'clock at night at a client's house. They don't see all the other stuff that goes on, and it is an enormous amount of work to get to where you'd like to be, and it's not for everyone. So, you've got to have pretty thick skin being a real estate agent. So if you've got the right attitude and you've got a long-term view of it, I'd absolutely give it a crack. Listen to some Tom Panos and some of the other really good national trainers and international trainers as well. I used to listen to all the Tony Robbins tapes, because it was all about mindset and being fit and healthy and, having a clear vision of where you wanted to be. And I think that's really important as well. And real estate will provide you with a sensational income if you're good at it, if you listen. Yep.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day.
No worries.
If you're a listener and this provided you with any value and you believe you have a right attitude and you want to give real estate a crack, please direct yourself to hotproperty.realestate and look at our careers tab. Thank you.